What's up, everyone? Welcome to Tuesday Live. Today we're talking about plexis and plexi sounds, and we're going to play around with some pedals, and we're going to have a good time. Quick plug. As always, we have a few sales going on. If you're watching the stream live, we have 10 discount codes available for 50% off of any of my video courses. There's only 10. When they're gone, they're gone. And for the rest of you, once those 10 are gone, or if you're watching on the replay, you can get 35% off of the tone course via the code plexi35 in the checkout. It's all linked down below. You guys know what to do. So today what we're going to talk about is getting a plexi sound, the Marshall 100-watt plexi sound without the actual amplifier. And we're going to take a look at a few pedals. Now, keep in mind, the pedal selection I have here is not the end-all, be-all plexi in a box pedal collection. This is just what I have here, okay? I've seen a few comments pop up already of, you know, what about this pedal? What about this pedal? There will be some honorable mentions that I have played that are really good that I just don't have. So we're going to use what we've got. But I've got some really good options here to show you. So if you're new here, this is also a Q&A. We're going to hang out and talk about plexi and guitar tones and pedals and all that kind of stuff for the next little while here. So if you have a question, you can @ me in the chat at Rhett Shull. It highlights in the chat so I can see it, or you can leave a super chat donation. And also we have, wait, you got promoted. You're no longer Jazz School Chris, right?
I'm now Producer Chris.
Producer Chris, that's right.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
And then his producer chair.
I'm controlling the cameras and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is actually making my life way easier because I don't have to do anything now other than sit here and talk to you fine people. Okay, so what have we got set up here? Right now I'm playing my Esquire. This is the 70th anniversary Esquire. And I'm going into the Marshall Plexi. Now, a quick story on this Plexi. Almost a month ago now, I did the What is the Plexi Sound video. And I had reached out to Marshall to order I had a Plexi on order, but with everything being crazy back ordered like it is, it was going to be months and months. And so I just borrowed Rick Beato's Plexi for that video. And then I think the day before I put the video out, this one came back from a dealer. The dealer sent it back for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I haven't been able to find anything wrong with it. Maybe there's a blemish somewhere or something, but they got this one back from a dealer. And Marshall very kindly ended up just giving me this amp. They enjoyed the video that I made with Rick's amp, and they were very gracious. So I had one on order, but Marshall did end up giving me this amp for free. So full transparency. This stream is not sponsored in any way by Marshall. There's no obligations that, they're not paying for me other than giving me the amp. So thank you to Marshall. All right, with that out of the way, let's hear the setup. Right now, we've got the Marshall going into the aux, and the aux has got a 412 greenback setting pulled up with a 57 and a 121, and this is what the Plexi sounds like. Sounds like a Marshall. Sounds like a Plexi. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Plexi sound. Like, what is it? Now, I've made a whole video on it, but for the purposes of this video, can you show our pedal cam of science here? So these are... Why am I dropping my freaking pen? God. So this is our test pedal board of science here. These are the 4 amp in a box pedals we're going to take a look at today, the preamp style pedals. All of them can do or are geared towards doing the Plexi sort of sound. And again, you're just joining in, this is not the end-all be-all Plexi in a box selection. This is just what I have access to. And the point of today's stream is not to try and sell you any of these pedals. It's to show you kind of what this amp sounds like, what it does well, and how to get that kind of sound out of a pedal like this or whatever kind of rig you might have. So, all right, what is the Plexi sound? So first of all, right now I've got the 2 channels jumped. And if you're not familiar, when you have a 4 input amplifier like this, you can jump channel 1 and channel 2 together and blend the two volume controls. So on a Marshall Plexi, over here we have volume 1, which is controlling the left channel, and volume 2, which is controlling the right channel. And if you jump them together, then you use the two channel volumes to blend together. So channel 1 is brighter. It's got more high end, more attack. Channel 2 is bassier. So what I'll do is I'll dial channel 2 all the way out here. So that's just channel 1. As I move channel 2 up, you should hear more low end come through, which on this Esquire will be really apparent. It really adds a lot of bottom end and fatness to this guitar. Bring it back down. All right, so to me, the kind of quintessential thing with the way a Marshall breaks up versus a Dumble or a Hi-Watt or a Vox is this top end kind of chirp things that happens. It's really apparent on this guitar, especially right as the pick falls off the guitar string. There's this like kind of really, it's not harsh, it's like a brilliant top end sort of chirp thing. To me, that's the Marshall sound. Like, that's the way a Marshall breaks up, and that's how you can really quickly identify it. You can add to it by bringing the presence up a little bit. Like, that's it. Let's just dime both channels and see how much gain this thing's got on tap here. So that's all amp. Sounds like a Marshall. Okay. So let's see here.
Let's take a few questions here.
Yeah, let's grab some questions.
Yeah. So first one is just a comment from David Munoz. He says, "You made me like Plexi amps. I never liked the harshness, but with a few tweaks from your presets, I'm finally on board."
Thanks, man. So the thing is, a Marshall needs the right speakers, I've found, because I was kind of that way for a while too. I never got a Marshall sound that I liked out of my modelers or anything like that. This is the first Marshall I've ever properly owned. I've had other Marshall style things like the Victory Sheriff 22. That's a great Marshall style amp. Also that Ampliphonics and Gain up there does some Marshall style things, but they're both a little bit different than this. And so what I found, like with the Greenback 25s, which is what I'm running through the aux right now, I think that's the right speaker for this kind of sound, for that chirpy top end Marshall bite kind of thing. Greenbacks work really well. I know some people like vintage 30s as well with Marshalls. I want to do a video though where I can take one amplifier and have one cabinet. We talk about this in the tone course, but I want to do a video where I take the same amp, the same cab, and just swap the speaker out and do a direct comparison with different speakers. But yeah, quick plug for those of you joining in. We have 10 coupon codes, maybe less than 10 available now for 50% off of anything in the any of my video courses. That's the tone course, Nashville Number System course, and Fretboard Fundamentals. Also,
that code is Plexi50.
My code's Plexi50, and then Plexi35 at checkout will get you 35% off of the tone course.
Okay, we got a couple more good questions.
Yeah, take me there.
Schlutke, he says, "What are your thoughts on the Fender through a Marshall, Gibson through a Fender amp saying?"
What, I don't know what the saying is.
You don't know? Okay, I thought that was something.
Well, I'm assuming you mean like...
So play a Fender through a Marshall, play a Gibson through a Fender.
Yeah, or you could play... I mean, sure, I guess. I don't think that's like a hard and fast rule. I can play a Gibson through a Marshall. Right now I'm playing a Fender through a Marshall. They both sound good. You can also play both through a Fender or both through a Vox. They all can sound good.
All right. Have you played one of Marshall's Origin Series amps?
I have not. And DJC in the chat. The guy playing guitar is not even paying attention to your people's questions. Chillax, y'all. Well, I can see your question or your statement. Let's see here. Soren Johnson, how do you get the tones for Noah's song Welcome the Stranger? So that was my RSA 23 divided by 13 back here. And I believe it was the Royal Jelly from Beatronics going into the front of it. And that's how I got that sound. So all right, so this is going to be our benchmark sound, okay? Presence at about noon, bass at about 1 o'clock, middle about 1 o'clock, treble at about 11 o'clock or 4 on the dial here. And then volume 1 is at about noon, and volume 2 is at about 1 or 2 o'clock on the Plexi there. And so that's what we're working with. I'll throw the Les Paul on and the Novo on too, so we can kind of have a clean point of comparison. And then we're going to switch to the pedal board of Science and go into a clean amp and try and get close to this sound on the Plexi with these different pedals. And we're just going to kind of see how these different pedals stack up to the benchmark sound that we've got here. Adiz Steele, thanks, man. Any new music from Deacon Knight or live shows? Yes, there will be at some point in the near future. But before that happens, we have to finish the studio build, which is creeping along slowly but surely. I was actually down there with a family friend this morning who's a contractor, and we were installing a steel beam. I had to change clothes before I got on the live stream because I was covered in sawdust and everything. But so we're inching along very, very slowly. My hope is to have the studio done by the end of the summer, which might be a little ambitious. Raj, thanks for the top chat, man. Thank you. Have I ever played a Hagstrom guitar? I have. A friend of mine that I went to AIM with had a Hagstrom, and it was cool. All right, so here's the Les Paul with the same amp settings. Completely different sound. This sound does the that really well. Do you hear the ghosting in there? That
lower pitch.
That lower pitch, yeah.
That's crazy.
So one of these pedals, the Revival Drive, actually tries to model that. It does a pretty good job of it. But
what's your volume on right now?
Neck volume is at about 6.
Wow, that cleans up a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah, it cleans up really well, and then if you dig in... Sounds like a Marshall, right?
Yeah.
All right, now let's hear the P90s for comparison. What model Les Paul is this? This is a 2019 USA Standard, the 50 spec, and I've swapped the pickups for Wiz PAFs. And then my good friend Zach Broyles from Mythos Pedals, he was telling me that the plastics on this guitar were bothering him when I first got it, which is an incredibly nerdy thing to admit. So he graciously bought me all new plastics from I can't remember who he got them from. But if you do a Google search, there's a company that reissues the plastics that are apparently like true to formula, true to form of the original 58, 59, 60 Les Pauls. And so the poker chip, the pickguard, and the pickup rings are updated plastics, thanks to Zach. And I put them on when I got them, and I used it in a video, and I sent it to him. I was like, all right, there, are you happy? And he was like, yes, thank you so much. It doesn't bother me anymore. So the P90 guitar, we're going to use, obviously, the Ceres J, the Novo. These are Amalfitano P90s. These are pretty hot. So actually, I think of the 3 guitars, this has, I believe, the highest output pickups. I believe these are hotter than the Wiz PAS. There's the bridge, here's the neck. And that is the nice thing about this amp. You know, when we talk about Marshalls and the Plexi sound, they're known for the loud, you know, crazy distortion, lots of gain kind of thing. But you have to think at the time, in the late 60s, when these amps were being designed and built, guitar players were looking for more headroom because PAs at the time in live venues couldn't really keep up. And you had these rock bands like The Who and Jimi Hendrix and all, and, you know, Zeppelin, all these people that were filling up big venues, and they needed lots of stage volume to fill up the crowd, to fill up the venue. And players like Hendrix, you know, we think of Hendrix as being, you know, he played a 100-watt stack. You know, he started off with the 45 100s and moves to the Plexis. You think about the fuzz face and the Octavia and all this stuff. But the reality is a lot of Hendrix's stuff was relatively clean or edge of breakup, basically not this super high gain kind of sound that I have pulled up now. And the thing about this amp that Chris was saying a second ago is, yeah, when the volume's all the way up, you get lots of tons of gain. But if I back the volume off, that's really, really nice. I'd call that clean tone. But I got some comments on my video yesterday saying that my idea of clean is not the right idea of clean, I guess. Okay, so I just found out we only have one 50% off coupon left for any video course. That's Plexi50 at checkout. Follow the link in the chat or in the description to grab that last one. And then once that's gone, 35% off the tone course in perpetuity. So... See, Raj in the top chat, thanks, man. How do you compensate for noise/hum with P90s when using fuzz and higher gain? I don't, truthfully. I kind of just roll with it. So that's as noisy as this guitar is, with volume all the way up, bridge pickup. Here's the middle position here. Here's the neck pickup. So I don't really do anything to mitigate it. I have gotten into situations with this guitar. It's only happened, I think, 2 times where I was on a gig and the stage had such bad power, the venue had such bad power that I couldn't use this guitar. Anytime I would kick on an overdrive pedal, the 60 cycle hum was just out of control, and I had to switch to a humbucker guitar. But that's only happened once. You could go to noiseless P90s. Fralin makes a really good set of noiseless P90s that Novo uses from time to time that are really, really good. All right, cool. Shall we switch to the clean amp?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm using the amp heat switcher, which means I need to get up and move over. So 2 seconds here. So now we've switched. We're no longer in the Plexi. We are in the Tone King Imperial Mark II, which you can't see. It's behind the Plexi on the sidecar there. I need to bring my preamps up one. We're in the clean channel, and this is what I would consider to be a clean sound, Fender style amp. That's me digging in all the way. So there's a little bit of saturation coming from the tubes, but to me, that's a clean sound. Chris, is that a clean sound to you? Oh.
That is like my version of like gritty to me.
Yeah, you're a jazz player though.
Oh, someone has a question about like the aux and the switcher. How's that all set up?
Okay, so behind the Marshall here in this sidecar back here is an Ampete switcher. It's called the 88S, and it takes 8 heads and up to 8 cabinets and lets you switch between them at will. So essentially what I have is everything on my amp rack back here, the 2 amps on the sidecar and this Plexi right now are all patched into the Ampete switcher by basically you take the speaker out on the back of the amp, it goes into the Ampete switcher, speaker in, and then it has an instrument out which comes out through a regular instrument cable and goes into the front end of your amplifier. You do that for all your amplifiers, and then you take another speaker cable and you run that out to whichever cabinet you want to run. And again, you can have up to 8 cabinets. Right now I just have the aux, so there's only 1 cab plugged in. I'm referring to the aux as the cabinet. And basically you just hit, okay, I want amp 3, which in this case would be the divided by 13 because it's 1, 2, 3. So I want amp 3 through cab 1, which is the aux. So what I just did basically was I switched amp 2, which this is in the second slot, from 2 to amp 7, which is the where the Tone King is. So Pete in the top chat, thanks for the live stream. Congrats, Chris. Sometime down the road, could you guys cover a little on your existing audio video setup and equipment, cams, mics, etc.? Oh, more Noah and Deacon Knight. Thanks, man. Yeah. Would people be interested in that if we did a video on
RS behind the scenes?
I do have plans to build the studio's channel, but that's a different subject altogether. Yeah, let us know in the chat if you would be interested in seeing some production stuff. So, all right.
A quick one more question. Do you prefer train wrecks or plexis?
Well, I've never played a real train wreck, so I don't know. I would love to get my hands on a real train wreck. The closest thing is the clone that was built for Chris over at Driftwood Guitars that both of us got to play at Summer NAMM this past year.
It was super cool. That was one of the loudest amps I've ever played for sure.
Yeah, so Chris is coming from a jazz guitar background, and he's new to this side of the guitar world. So getting to play that super loud amp in the room was eye-opening for him. So, all right. So let's go to pedal cam. So first off, we're going to start off with the Revv G2. Now, all of these pedals here, pull up the picture-in-picture if you don't mind. So all of these pedals here are what I would call amp-in-a-box, like preamp style pedals. That's what they're all marketed as, what they're all geared towards. Now, the Iridium obviously goes a step beyond that, and it adds a cabinet modeling section, an impulse response loader. But for this live stream, I have the impulse responses turned off. So we're just hearing basically like a preamp overdrive pedal side of the Iridium, which is super cool that you can do that. But for now, we're going to start with the Revv G2. So this is a preamp. I believe it's based off of one of their amplifiers, the G20 maybe? I'm not super hip to their lineup, but going for the Plexi sound.
Comment, I'm sure.
Yeah, somebody let us know. So that's pretty good. So the main thing with this pedal, I think, is this knob here, or sorry, the switch here. So there's the blue setting, the red setting, and the off. So the blue setting to me is basically the most open, kind of natural sound. That's the most amp-like kind of sound. The red setting gets a little bit more compressed and adds more gain. It's really subtle, it's more of a feel thing. And then if I turn it off, now that's pretty good, but overall, compared to the Plexi, it doesn't have the same top end. Like, it's not getting that bite out of it, even if I crank the treble. It's real mid-rangey and kind of, I'm not gonna say muddy. Actually, as you dial the gain back, it gets less compressed, which makes sense. I'm going to bring the volume back as well, clean it up a little. Doesn't sound bad. But that's not super close to the Plexi, I think. Dude, there's a ton of bass on tap there, though. Check that out. That's pretty good.
Whoa.
That's actually, for a pedal, for a preamp pedal, that's a ton of bass. So if you bring some of that bass in mid out. Oh my god. These EQs are really active. So the blue side is darker. When I flip to blue, we lose a lot of that top end. So I think that's probably the closest we're gonna get to that Plexi sound. And to me, it doesn't have as much top end brilliance and sparkle, and it doesn't have that chirp thing. A good sounding pedal, but not super Plexi-ish. It'll get you sort of in the ballpark in terms of the level of gain. And these three band EQ here, there's a ton of EQ on tap. I mean, a lot more than I think almost any other pedal I've ever played. So, got any questions here?
No questions, but someone's saying you need to put foam behind.
Oh yeah,
under
yeah.
your
So
bridge.
that's because this is a Jazzmaster style, and you do get that thing. Now, here's the deal. I actually kind of like that about this guitar, which is why I don't have foam. My friend Kevin Kadish has a Saris J, and what he's done is taken little rubber grommets and put rubber grommets between each pair of strings here, just stuck it in there, and that dampens that ringing. But
that's what you do on like cellos and basses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think is where you got that from. But to me, I like it. I think it's part of the character of this guitar.
Yeah, we got a couple top chats though.
Oh, cool.
David Underwood, he says, Rhett, just to thank you. I enjoyed the channel and thanks for teaching me so much. Have a drink on me.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And Dylan Gresham, he says, Rhett, just sold my Dell Reverb and got an Imperial Mark II. At higher volumes, the treble is just ear-piercing on both amps. Any tips?
Well, try dialing back the treble to start with. Now, on the Imperial Mark II, are you getting too much high-end from the rhythm channel or the lead channel or both? And if it's something that you can't dial out, if it's something that's still too harsh and too bright, change your speaker. I don't know if you've been running I don't know if you've been running both through the same cabinet or if they were combos or whatever, but a speaker swap might be in order for you. But start by utilizing your EQ. Also, don't be afraid of your tone control, people. Like, this is on your guitar for a reason. Use it. You don't have to leave both your volume and tone on 10 all the time. On that Esquire, for example, I actually use the tone control a lot. There's a lot of times where I will switch to the middle position to bring the tone control in to the circuit and then roll it off just a little bit to kind of tame some of the initial brightness of that Esquire pickup.
Yeah. Also, I'm seeing a lot of yeses to the behind the scenes.
Okay. All right. Got some camera nerds in the chat, I guess. I'm actually thinking about getting an A7S III. Just a quick for people that care about it. We use 2 A7s, so this is an A7 A7 II. Sorry, A7 III.
Yeah.
God, I don't know what I'm talking about. A7 III, and then pedal cam is another A7 III, and I'd like to add a third camera, so I think I want to get the A7S III. Boy, are they pricey.
And what am I on right now? Just like a Sony handheld?
Yeah, you're on the ZV-1, right?
ZV-1, yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like the ZV-1. I wouldn't recommend it. Don't buy a ZV-1.
What do you think of Dr. Z amps?
I like Dr. Z amps. I've never owned one. My buddy Noah owns a Cure, and it's a good little amp. I'd like to try a Z-Rec. Somebody was asking about a Trainwreck earlier, and I think a Z-Rec would probably be about as close as I could get to, because I obviously cannot afford a real Trainwreck. But yeah, I'd like to try a Z-Rec for sure. All right, let's move on to the next pedal here. So in our Amp in a Box Plexi Tone Quest, we got to talk about Lawrence Petrov's design. This is the 68 Deluxe. I also have the 68 here, the 68 Drive. Both of these are designed to be like the late 60s Plexi in a box kind of thing. And I was talking to Lawrence on Instagram right before this, and he was telling me basically the difference between the regular 68 Drive and the Deluxe is the Deluxe has a boost circuit that's situated before the drive circuit, so you can essentially hit the front end of the pedal a little harder to get more gain. And it has this switch here, which takes you from the green mode to the red mode. The green mode is based off of like a normal 68 Plexi. The red mode, which I actually prefer, is based off of one of Andy Timmons's Plexis. I believe a 68 Plexi. And I really like that red mode. But here we go. See, I like the red mode. I think the red mode is a little bit closer. Let me crank the treble. I'm still looking for that chirp kind of thing here. That's really nice. And then if we hit it with the boost. Visual guy, red mode, gain at 2 o'clock, bass at 11. Let's see what he says here, what this sounds like. Ah, there you go. Pull that bass out. Green mode definitely has less gain. And just for reference, this is what we started with the Imperial Mark II. Nice clean sound.
That's pretty close, honestly.
That's a great Marshall in the box sound right there. And keep in mind the way we're running this right now, with all these pedals, because they're designed to be sort of preamp, amp in a box pedals, you can get away with using them in front of a clean amp like we're doing right now, or you could use it with a IR loader, cab Zeus kind of thing, cabinet modeling sort of pedal, and use it more like an actual preamp section of an amplifier. Or like in Revv, they actually talk about, and you could do this I think with all three of these, if you have an amp with an effects loop, you could take basically the output of this pedal and run it into the return of the effects loop, essentially sort of bypassing the amp's preamp section and replacing it with the pedal. I've tried it a few times with mixed results, but I think part of the reason we're not getting quite the same amount of chirp out of these two pedals as we're getting out of the Marshall is because currently we're running these in front of a Fender style amplifier with its own tone stack. Now on the Imperial, I've got the EQ controls, the treble and the bass are both at noon, and I've got the volume at about 9 o'clock. And so yeah, there's different ways you can approach this kind of sound though.
So someone in the chat says, I'm kind of surprised none of these have a presence control. That is kind of interesting.
It is kind of interesting. Now, the Revival drive, which we'll get to next, does have a presence, and the Iridium doesn't, but it's got the EQ controls kind of shift their function a little bit depending on which amp setting you're on. So these two don't have presences, but I mean, the 3-band EQ on this Revv pedal is surprisingly active. I mean, there's a ton of treble on tap there. The LPD 68 Deluxe does only have the treble and bass. So I don't know. Maybe Lawrence, if you're watching, throw a presence control on one of these if you want. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So educate me. What exactly does presence do?
So if I switch back to the Marshall, it's essentially a fourth band of EQ, and you can think of it as like treble, but a little higher. Sometimes its voice is like a high shelf on an EQ. So like the treble is going to get you more top end, more bright, more bite on this amplifier, and the presence is going to get more brilliance, more shimmer, and it can get really harsh, like really bright on Marshalls if you bring that presence control up. It's kind of like high treble in a way. McKinley, what's up, man? The Thorpe gunshot is right on the money for the Plexi thing. Love it. Nice. Yeah, and again, if you're just joining us, this is not the end-all, be-all pedal selection for Marshall-style amp-in-a-box pedals. This is what I currently have access to on my pedal shelf to be able to talk about amp-in-a-box tones. So, getting back to the Marshall, again, what we're trying to figure out here and trying to get close to is that chirp, that top end brilliance. I think both of the pedals, the G2 and the 68, have got the gain pretty close in the amount of gain and the type of clipping, but we're still kind of missing some of that top end. So let's go next to the Revival drive. Now, the Revival drive is an expensive pedal. It's a complex pedal, but it really does a lot. This thing, my best use case for it is if you're the type of player where you have a totally clean pedal platform amplifier and you want something that can completely revoice that amp, or if you're playing a lot of backline amps and you don't always know what you're going to be playing into, and you want something that can really have a lot of control over voicing an amp, or you want an onboard preamp to run into an impulse response loader, this is probably the most amp-like, one of the most amp-like drive pedals I've ever used. Now, this is the big version. In my video yesterday, I used the compact version, which is essentially just this side, so you can kind of ignore the gray side. And yes, this looks really complicated, but if you break it down, it's essentially a 2-in-1. So the orange side is mimicking a tube rectified amp. The gray side is mimicking a solid state rectified amp. But for all intents and purposes, this side and this side are basically the same. But it's cool because you can set it up in different ways. So you could set it up so the tube rectified side is kind of like a Marshall sound, which is what we have here. And then you could set it up so the solid state rectified is more of a clean boost or more of a Fender sound or, whatever. And then you can switch between them. So it's like a channel switching thing. There's also a mid boost that you can assign to a separate foot switch. It's a pretty nice pedal. So this is what we got pulled up here so far. See, now we're starting to get that chirp back. You hear that? God, do you ever just have days where you can't play your guitar at all?
Every day.
Every day. So I think that's actually pretty close. I might try bringing the gain up a little bit, and sort of like the G2, listen to how much low end is on tap here. I mean, that's a ton of bass. So it's actually a little bit too much, I think. The other cool thing about this pedal is you have a clean blend. And as we talked about in my video yesterday, these are really useful for getting articulation and definition back in your overdrive signal. So right now this is full overdrive, no clean signal whatsoever. You get a lot more of that pick attack and clarity back. I actually kind of like it there with a little bit of clean coming through. And what's cool, this is a presence control here, this top right knob, and it's not, all the way down, all the way up. Middle is essentially at its null point, at its low point. As you turn it to the left, it brings the presence up. And it's been a while since I've read the manual for this pedal, but essentially there's two different types of presence control here. So if you listen, I actually think that's a little bit closer to where we're and then this has the ghost control too, so you can actually kind of bring in that ghost note sort of thing we had going on earlier. That also cleans up like the real amp does.
Yeah. I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if those pedals get the Hendrix clean sound too as well.
All right, let's go back to the 68 drive here. A little darker.
Yeah, it loses some of the sparkle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the green mode. Yeah, it doesn't clean up the same way that this one does. So here's all the way up. And the other thing about the Revival drive is, so these little knobs down here, which might be a little hard to see on the stream, but so these two are for the mid-level and mid-frequency, which we're not going to talk about. This is the dry gain, so this is the amount, the gain level of your dry signal coming through when you have the blend control turned down. And then these two are incredibly useful. So you have the high shelf and you have a bright cap cut. So on each side here, there's a bright cap switch, which you can switch from English, GB, or American, US, or turn it off. And there's a preamp style switch here too. So you can go from Great Britain, so English style, to US style. So if here's the Marshall style, Great Britain style, preamp. And here's the vendor style. And then same thing with the bright cap. Here's the English, American. So it changes the gain level too. And then off for both. So that's kind of cool. So you can change the amount of cut, high-end cut with the bright cap, so you can make it darker or brighter by bringing the cut down. And so that's where a lot of that bite is coming from, that chirp, I think. That sounds pretty good. Kyle's asking, does this come with a proton pack in case the ghosts get loose? Look, I get it. It's an intimidating pedal, but it does a lot. If you can take some time to kind of wrap your brain around it, it's to me, it's the most, at least in the pedals that I've played, if you're looking for like that true amp in a box sound, I think the Revival Drive or the Revival Drive Compact and then the Iridium, which we're going to play next, I think these are the best in that respect. These are both great overdrives. They both sound great, but if you're looking for something that's going to really knock out that Plexi tone with the chirp and all the stuff, the G2 doesn't really get there. Still sounds really nice, really versatile pedal. The 68 Deluxe gets a lot closer, but is not as amp-like as the Revival Drive and the Iridium. Now, the cool thing about the Iridium, I adore this pedal. This is one of my favorite pieces of gear ever. It's a great practice tool. It's a great recording tool. I used this on a few radio dates on tour, back when touring was actually happening, where I would just set this on the ground and plug my board straight into it and then send that out straight to the console and out onto the radio airwaves, and it sounded fantastic. So if you're just joining us, like I said, this is, a preamp style amp. Honestly, it's an amp modeler and a pedal with an IR loader. But for this demonstration, because we're going into the front end of an amplifier, I have disabled the impulse response, basically the speaker modeling. So you don't have any speaker modeling. You just have the preamp style. So it's essentially acting like all these other pedals here. So
before we get into that, let's do some plugs for some stuff.
Oh yeah. I believe we're out at the 50% off coupons now.
There could be one left, I'm not sure.
There might be one left. 50% off of any of my video courses. Plexi 50 in checkout. You can follow the link in the description box or in the top chat. And we're also running 35% off of the tone course. And
there are none left.
Confirmed. Sorry, never mind. All right, well, they're all gone.
35% off.
35% off the tone course. Plexi 35 at checkout. Also, we haven't talked about Inner Circle in a while, and we need to, because we are launching a big new thing on Inner Circle. We've been working on it behind the scenes for a few weeks, and thanks to Steve, we have gotten a new feature on Inner Circle launch. If you don't know, Inner Circle is sort of like my version of Patreon. It's not Patreon. It's on Teachable, which is the same, like RhettShullGuitarCourses.com. And essentially it's $10 a month, and you get access to monthly live hangs where we get on with a bunch of people on a Zoom call, and we literally just shoot the shit for 2 or 3 hours. That's a ton of fun. And also, you get access to my newest video course, which we're working on now, the rhythm guitar course. So as it's going up, we'll be posting those, and you will get early access to the new course. We've gotten the first, 2 sections done of the course?
I think 3.
3 sections? Are we that far along?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyways, we just launched a whole new feature set in the Inner Circle. It's much more like community-based now. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff over there. So if you're interested in that, follow the link to the Inner Circle. It's $10 a month, and I really appreciate the support.
Also, the pedal board giveaway from 2 weeks ago, it ends tonight.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Do we have a link for that? So the live stream we did 2 weeks ago with my good friend Philip Conrad, the pedal board giveaway, I think you have one more day, or no, just a few more hours to enter.
It ends tonight.
Okay, so let's find a link for that and get that posted up. We've had a bunch of entries, which is really, really cool. So, all right, let's move on.
Does the Inner Circle come with eyes wide shut type meetings? Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Let's see here. Did you have the hang on the 21st? I guess I missed it. We did. And we have another live hang coming up this Friday, actually. So if you sign up for the Inner Circle, we are having a live hang this Friday afternoon, as a way to kind of launch the new Circle platform. So, yeah, you can check that out, get signed up. And it's cool. It's not like a live stream. Those live hangs are much more like conversational, and because it's a Zoom call, people are talking to one another. We've had some really interesting discussions about like forestry and wood sustainability and alternative tone woods, and building a career in music, and talk about gear a lot. I mean, it's a really, really fun time. I love them. It's one of my favorite things I get to do. Those live hangs are super fun. All right, shall we play the Iridium? Yes. All right. We shall. So, if you're not familiar with the Strymon Iridium, there's 3 different amp models: Round, which is Fender style; Chime, which is an AC30; and Punch, which is a late 60s 100-watt Plexi. So obviously, we're going to be on the Punch side. I'm going to set the EQs relatively close, and let's just see what this sounds like. That sounds really close.
That's my favorite one so far.
Yeah, that's really good. And just so everyone knows, this is the first time I've ever done this. I've never like taken all these pedals out and set them up and set up an amp as a benchmark and then tested their amp-like abilities next to one another. So this is actually really informative. Dude, that sounds really good.
How much low end is there available?
So that's what the bass at 11 o'clock. Let's see. Surprisingly, not as much as like the Revival Drive, and definitely not as much as the G2. But you don't need that much low end. The reality, like with the bass on the G2 at like 1 o'clock or more, that's at least for this guitar and this kind of sound is way too much bottom end. But here, I think there's just enough where it's usable. That's not even all the gain on tap. Let's like crank the drive. Oh my god. then it really cleans up. So put the gain back kind of where it was. See how it cleans up. I think it cleans up, but it doesn't clean up quite as well as the Revival Drive, I think. I got demonetized for playing Wind Cries Mary last week, by the way.
Really?
Kind of thing.
Well, you're definitely gonna get demonetized.
Yeah. I got the email right after the live stream was done. I was like, wait, what? Wind Cries Mary.
My bad.
Which I guess I played it right. It's kind of a compliment, I guess.
Yeah, I think I was the one who asked you to do that, though.
Yeah.
I guess you're gonna have to dock my pay.
Dock your pay, man. Yep.
From $1 to 50 cents.
I'll just invoice you for the difference. Yeah. So let's see here. Dustin, are the treble mid bass controls actually treble mid and bass in the Plexi mode? I know they change mode to mode. You know, I actually don't know. I want to say maybe the treble is a presence control in this mode. I think we can look it up, or someone in the chat can look it up and remind me. It's presence or the treble all the way down. Yeah, that seems more like a presence control. And the mid almost seems like treble. Overall, though, that's a really nice sound. Let's switch guitars. Let's grab the Lester Pulphus here.
I didn't believe you the first time you'd said that to me.
The Lester Pulphus?
Yeah, I didn't believe you. I had to look it up.
Oh, man. Really digging those P90s. Thanks, Buzz. That's those are Amalfitano P90s. That's a really nice sound, too. All very different sounds between those four pedals. Yeah. Very, very different. But all good in their own right. I really like the red setting on the 68 Deluxe. I like this. It just adds that kind of... That's a great lead sound. I think the most amp-like overall is the Revival Drive. The way it cleans up, how bright it is, how it gets that chirp. You know, you see how much high end got rolled off with that bright cap cut right there?
Yeah.
And then I think, now this is definitely the most expensive option. Does it sound the best? That's subjective. I think if you're looking for the most amp-like thing, this is it. I think the most well-rounded in terms of price and feature set is probably the 68 drive. The Revv G2 is definitely cool. It does its own thing. It doesn't get super close to the Plexi sound. And then the Iridium, I think, is... in some ways, it's not even comparable to this whole setup here because it's got the IR loader, because it's a direct box and amp modeler. It has a headphone out, has all these different features. But if we disregard all of that, I think it's just as good sounding as any of these, Revival Drive included. Doesn't quite clean up as well as the Revival Drive, but it sounds real good. Plus, you can have the 2 other amps on there as well. Pete, the top chat, Hell or High Water is one of my favorite leads I've heard in a while. Thank you so much, man. Assuming it was you. It was me. It was me on, I believe, this guitar, actually. If I'm remembering correctly, I think I tracked it. I tracked the solo at home and sent the tracks in. It was this guitar into my Tweed Deluxe. And I had something in front of the Tweed Deluxe, but I can't remember what it was. So yeah, other honorable mentions in this category that I don't currently have. The Exotic SL drive is really good. That's a really good Marshall in a box. The just regular Lawrence Petros 68 drive, not without the Deluxe, but this is another. It's basically just what we've been playing without the boost circuit and without the ability to switch between the green and red settings. But this is a really cool. You can also run this at 18 volts, which I have never done. Let's see. I wonder if there is a pedal that can give you the sound of a clean twin reverb with a lot of headroom. I would like to use it instead of your amp. Is there anything like that? Well, the Iridium has a Fender setting. If you go to the round setting and you turn the drive down and then you turn the level up. Now this is again going into the front end of a Fender style amp, so you're not, it's, you know, not a totally scientific thing, but and I'm getting extra gain because I'm hitting the front end of the tube amp a little harder. So that's not a totally fair comparison. But if you're looking for that, get a HX Stomp. Get a Helix HX Stomp. Or the Iridium. I think one of those two would treat you really well. Carl Martin has a few Plexi pedals. Yes. What's the name of the Carl Martin Plexi Drive, I believe? Plexi Ranger. Yeah. YouTube should give you a chance to remove or replace a piece of audio that gets copyright blocked. It seems like a loss for everyone if they don't. Yeah, they actually do, but it doesn't, you know, in the context of a live stream like this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try and replace something that I played. It's fine. I'm okay with getting demonetized. If I play someone else's copyright material, you know, it is what it is. So, cool. Well, there you go, everyone. I think that's going to do it for Plexitone, Carl Martin. That's it. Thank you. I think it's going to do it for today's video. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Don't forget, you can get 35% off of the tone course via the link in the description box or in the chat here. And all these pedals are going to be linked down there below. Some of them are affiliate links. Some of them are not. But if you're interested in learning about any more of these, you can check that out. And yeah.
Make sure you check out the Inner Circle.
Yeah, Inner Circle. Yeah, we got to start plugging that again. We took some time off from plugging it because we were working on it and kind of making it better, but now we are. It's kind of a soft launch on the Inner Circle. So we have an Inner Circle live hang happening this Friday. So if you want to be a part of that, you can sign up for the Inner Circle, $10 a month. Also, don't forget to enter to win the pedal board giveaway from 2 weeks ago. Last night to enter it ends tonight. So Tilly just dropped that link in the chat. And yeah, appreciate it, everyone. We'll see you next week on Tuesday Live with another live stream. See y'all.